Nói về kiều bào ta ở nước ngoài thì có tới hơn một nửa ra đi sau cuộc chiến tranh tại Việt Nam. Đa phần trong số họ đang ngày càng hướng về Tổ quốc. Kiều bào sau 40 năm đã hình thành ra những cộng đồng người Việt có vị trí trong xã hội ở nước sở tại.
Và trong cộng đồng đó, thế hệ Việt kiều thứ hai, nghĩa là những người không sinh ra ở Việt Nam nhưng mang dòng máu của Việt Nam, đang ngày càng thành đạt và tạo nên một thế hệ Việt kiều có cách nhìn nhận khách quan hơn đối với quê hương mình.
Nhân dịp kỷ niệm này, nhiều bạn đã trở về quê hương. Họ muốn mình tận mắt chứng kiến quê cha đất tổ mình hiện nay như thế nào. Và trong số họ thì không ít người biết đến Việt Nam qua những lời kể của cha mẹ, qua sách báo. Những câu chuyện đó càng thôi thúc họ trở về quê hương. Và phóng viên của chúng tôi đã gặp họ và cùng họ chia sẻ về đất nước sau 40 năm thống nhất.
My identity lies somewhere in between a steaming bowl of pho and Kraft macaroni and cheese. I am Vietnamese American.
I left Vietnam when I was a really young child. I received a lot of criticism primarily from my mother, who actually said to me, you're no longer my daughter if you come back.
I lived in Vietnam for 8 years, and it's been one of the most rich and fulfilling experiences of my life to be here for so long and understand the country that my parents are from and understand who I am.
Hello and welcome to Talk Vietnam. The American war in Vietnam has ended for 4 decades now, but its effects still linger on in a group of people. And one of those groups of people is the second-generation Vietnamese diaspora, or first-generation Americans. And they've not gone through the war, they don't experience the subtlety and the difficulties of war, and they didn't see bomb craters either right outside of their homes. But for them, there's a little bit of a biasness, potentially brought forth by the memories of their parents, of their grandparents, who served with the Southern Vietnamese regime. So now, they're all back in Vietnam, some of them. We have 3 people right here with us in the studio today, and we're going to talk to them about their experiences, how they view the war, as well as how they view going forward. Hello, all 3 of you. Thank you so much for coming to the studio. Yeah, so first of all, tell us a little bit about your family history and how you grew up. Let's start with David, since you're closest to me.
Thanks, Phoebe, so much. Pleasure to be here. So my name is David Zuong, and I was born in Dalat, actually, and moved to the U.S. when I was 4 with my parents and family, and grew up in Michigan, and have been coming back off and on to Vietnam since 2004 in undergraduate, graduate, medical school, and now as a professional.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Chị Quỳnh and Anh Minh?
So I was born in Da Nang in 73, and I left at the very end of the war in 75 as a refugee via boat. And I settled in the U.S. in San Diego, California. I came back to Vietnam at the very end of 1997. And I've been here since.
And what about you?
So my name is Do Trong Anh Minh, but people I guess here know me as Anh Minh Do. And I was born in the States, but my family history is, my grandfather was the Vice Minister of Education in Vietnam, and his whole family left Vietnam quite early in the 60s. And then, but my father left when he was 12. Came in the States, so most of my life was in the States. I came to Vietnam the first time in '89, and then I started living here in 2007, and I've been here ever since. Yeah.
So to all 3 of you, what did your parents do, and how did they view the war?
To be honest, my mother doesn't really like to talk about the past, and it's quite difficult to get information from her, so it's a little bit all shrouded in mystery, to be honest. But as far as I know, she was actually just a housewife. And, the bombs are falling. We were from Da Nang, and she made her way south in 75, in fact. And she doesn't talk much. She's told me a little bit about my father, in fact. who actually did fly for South Vietnam.
So my mom was still a student in Dalat, and my father was a captain in the Republic of South Vietnam's military, working on military strategy and working with the Americans. And after the war ended, my father decided to stay in Vietnam, and afterwards he realized that we needed to leave.
Right, right. So, as people growing up in the States when you were very young, you know, how did impressions or how did the memories of your family, how did that shape the way or shape how you felt about Vietnam growing up?
I think that for my parents, Vietnam was, you know, always talked about in this very nostalgic, the taste of pho broth, the green of the rice paddies, the beautiful flowers of Dalat, the fog over Xuân Hương Lake, like very nostalgic memories.
Yeah. What about you, Chị Quỳnh?
No, it's the same with my mother. So I don't know my father. We left with, you know, it was just all the women, in fact. And my mother is also nostalgic about this nation, about, you know, the culture and many things about this wonderful country. But when I left the States to come back to Vietnam, my mother didn't understand that at all. She actually disowned me for a little while because, you know, she was wondering, why would you return to a country, you know, from which we fled and we all risked our lives? And for me, you know, I didn't have those memories. I was just a child when we left.
Yeah.
But then growing up in the States, having all these opportunities my mother afforded to me with education. So for me as an adult to make a very conscious decision to return to this nation. And even now, after all these years, I've been back since '97, she still will not come to visit.
Wow.
My dad was along with all the other folks in Berkeley protesting the war and stuff, so he was very interested in peace. And then, you know, back in '89, my parents both came back because they wanted to do a lot of humanitarian work. And so I kind of developed a relationship with Vietnam very quickly. So I have seen like Vietnam change, and so coming back to the States, I always felt like that my picture of Vietnam was very different from the Vietnamese community that I was also growing up around.
Yeah.
And I think my parents also kind of tried to foster that in me.
Living away from Vietnam, the second generation of the Vietnamese diaspora had a vague impression about the motherland, mostly through the bitter memories of their parents or grandparents. These preconceived notions and bias at times distanced them from their roots.
Vietnam when I was a really young child, and when I came back to this country, I had a lot of criticism, primarily from my mother, in fact, and she actually explicitly told me that I was no longer her daughter when I told her I was coming back here.
Brought up in the United States, this generation of Vietnamese Americans were often called the banana generation, as they are yellow on the outside but white on the inside.
My upbringing was quite American. All my friends were white Americans, and you know, we played hockey and watched TV all the time and played video games like a lot of Americans do.
But deep down inside, the question of where they actually came from kept nagging at them, fostering a desire to come back and discover the real Vietnam.
Let's say when you were growing up, you know, did the identity problem ever occur to you? And, you know, did you think of yourself as a Vietnamese? And if so, how?
English is actually my native tongue. I grew up speaking English. And I, you know, being refugees as well, and there were 3 of us then, And we really wanted to assimilate into American culture. So we basically just eschewed our Vietnamese identity in the sense that we didn't really want to learn the language. We didn't want to associate with other Vietnamese. In fact, I didn't actually have Vietnamese friends growing up. If that's crazy. I lived in San Diego with a huge Vietnamese community, and I had no Vietnamese friends at all.
I feel you.
Yeah, I feel you too.
Me neither.
And then I studied art, and there were no Vietnamese in my program.
I think I can definitely relate to you. You know, I actually hated being Vietnamese. I really kind of revolted against that. I was embarrassed of my parents because they spoke English with an accent, and I didn't want them to be seen. And I think back then in the 90s and in the late 80s, like America was like a melting pot. It wasn't like a tossed salad model, right? So you're supposed to assimilate. And we got American first names, and we spoke English, and we ate American food. And I really actually hated being Vietnamese because I was like one of the only Asian people in my school. And like probably the only one that was not adopted, and kind of just like went along with that and let people figure that I was adopted, and let people figure that I had white parents because I just wanted so bad to be normal amongst, you know, this Asian kid amongst all these American kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And when did you feel like you wanted to embrace your Vietnamese identity? One more time.
I don't think
for the first time.
For the first time. I think it was in college. When I traveled the country by myself the summer after freshman year of college, and I backpacked north to south, that was really when I felt like, wow, I can somewhat talk to these people, I can identify with these people, and this was a beautiful country. And questions started coming up about, well, why are things like this here? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And that just kind of led me to ask more questions and then spend more time in Vietnam to get more answers, and it just kind of snowballed.
I think for me, like when I first came here, I was like, I'm gonna come here and live for a year, and then go to Hong Kong or Singapore and experience the rest of Asia. Because Vietnam's just training, I already know it. But then I came here after a year, and I lived in the countryside in An Giang, and for a year, and I realized after a year I didn't know anything. And then after 3 years, I was like, okay, I don't want to know. I'll just let go, and things will just happen around me, and I can adapt to them. And then by that time, I was like, my network is here, and I can contribute more, so I might as well just stay.
But you talk about contributing, so that's exactly why I'm still here, because I think maybe it's a bit of this American entrepreneur spirit we might have, but this idea of building and contributing, because especially for me, there aren't many galleries, actually contemporary art galleries, who work at this kind of level. And I really feel like I'm helping to build infrastructure here. I don't think I'd have that opportunity in the U.S.
I think for me, the tipping point was definitely, I did that like solo backpack, not solo, but I did by myself with like friends, but not with my parents, backpacking trip. And then just all these questions came up and about the country. And then the first 2 summers I spent, I lived there for about 4 consecutive months in a commune health center in northern Vietnam in Phu Thọ, and literally just got so ingrained in the life of the farmer. I felt like just connected with the land and with the place since 2004 till now. So many people have taught me so many things in Vietnam, and now I'm finally at the time and the point where I'm actually contributing. And I think that I wouldn't definitely not have this opportunity in the States. I don't know, it's a wonderful feeling.
While studying international healthcare at the University of Michigan, David Zeung formed an NGO named Crossing Borders. He took a team of Americans and Vietnamese Americans to volunteer at a health center in Dieu Linh Commune, Phu Thọ Province. 3 summers from 2005 to 2007 were dedicated to compiling a complete report of the local nutrition conditions and understanding the Vietnamese culture and lifestyle.
Here in Vietnam because I want to live like the people of Vietnam. I want to be able to help them, but in order for me to first help the people of Vietnam, I need to understand their life. It's so easy for me to sit in the classroom and think that I know what they go through, and because I have seen it, or I've read it, or I've been told it, but to experience it is a totally different thing.
Thanks to this program, David underlined his determination to pursue a career in medicine and return to help Vietnam. Today, David is heading to where it all started 10 years ago.
Chào anh chị. Anh khỏe chứ? Thì sợ anh khỏe, anh khỏe. Dạ, anh khỏe tốt thế ạ. Dạ tốt ạ. Dạ tốt ạ. Gia đình của anh khỏe chứ? Hai chị Lý khỏe?
Chung là cả gia đình cũng khỏe.
Dạ. Đúng tốt, có rồi. Dạ.
Công việc là tốt không nào?
Dạ, công việc tốt ạ. Bây giờ chị em đang làm bác sĩ nội trú ở bên kia ạ.
Liu Quốc-chi, head of the center, takes David around the new facility, which was partly rebuilt from the old center a year ago.
Wow.
Cái phần sảnh ngoại trạm nó được trang bị theo cái mẫu mới.
Here, the whole team used to take turns to assist the clinic staff to take care of the patients, including delivering babies.
Đây là phòng hồi xưa vẫn nằm đây đấy.
Dạ.
Đúng đến đây thì nằm đây.
Dạ.
Đây phòng nữa để đây.
Đây ai cũng nhớ cái phòng này ạ.
Thế thì từ năm đấy bây giờ các cháu lớn lắm.
Trời ơi rồi, có 10 năm rồi ạ.
Chi was the closest one to David for the whole period of 6 months here. He often calls him by his Vietnamese name, Long.
Được cái việc vận thuận của tôi thấy là rất hay, rất quý ở Long ở chỗ là như vậy là sống rất là tình cảm. Giao tiếp đối với người bệnh là như vậy, anh hỏi han cẩn thận lắm, chi tiết lắm. Thế sau đó thì như vậy là đến cái chăm sóc mà bà mẹ rồi thì chăm sóc trẻ là anh cũng rất quan tâm. Có một số việc nữa thì các em cũng tham gia là như vậy, chẳng hạn như là dạy cho các em học tiếng Anh, thế rồi thì đi thăm các gia đình thuộc hộ nghèo, thế rồi bố trí cho các cháu ở trường mầm non ăn bổ sung. Bà con thì mọi người đều rất quý mến, rất thân tình, coi như là con cháu trong gia đình của mình đấy.
Nhìn lớn thế, cao gần vài năm rồi. Chị, chào chị khỏe chứ?
Khỏe thì
Dạ em khỏe ạ. Chị vẫn nhìn như thế thôi ạ.
David is now like part of Chi's family. For 2 consecutive summers, he and his friends were taken care of at his house. Lê Thị Lý still remembers vividly the bond among her family members and the crossing border students, especially David.
Long về đây thì cũng có nhiều lúc Long vẫn còn bỡ ngỡ, nhưng xong Long lại rất chịu khó học hỏi, tìm nói mọi người để mình còn biết theo cái phong tục của Việt Nam mình, kể cả như là việc đi chợ này, hay là nhặt rau hay nấu cơm, hay là những việc giặt quần áo. Đấy, những việc đấy là Long đều tự hỏi để biết, để làm những việc rất là nhỏ trong những cái việc hàng ngày. Các bạn trước khi ra về, bạn nào cũng khóc lóc cùng với gia đình, chỉ muốn là ở lại, không muốn về bên Mỹ nữa.
Chị ơi, hấp dẫn quá.
Nếm miếng đi.
Ngon lắm. Được rồi chị ơi.
Such experience like this has not only melted away the preconceived notions that young Vietnamese Americans like David might have had before, but also given them a place to call home.
So David, we've seen you go back to Phu Tho, to Điêu Lương commune, and you've worked there, and it was very difficult for you to adjust initially.
When I went there it was. So, getting into the life of the village, and that was really difficult initially because you just didn't know what to do. Like I didn't have any skills in rice farming. I didn't have any skills in how to start a fire with hay and how to cook and how to, do any of that stuff, or how to get water from the well and then wash your clothes with it, or take bucket showers, or sleep on hard planks of wood with, electricity that would be running out every 2 hours, and it would be so hot. And it was really, I think, just physically and emotionally, it was just really hard, and I missed home, but after you kind of surpass all that, or at least for me and the friends that I was with, you really get to see this pace of life and the people there, and we ended up connecting to the villagers there, and it was quite wonderful. And that's what drove me to do it again the following summer.
The following summer.
Yeah.
And was that one of the experiences that shaped your desire to want to do medicine?
Yes, definitely. During my summers in Vietnam, I really saw medicine and health as a way to connect with people and to get to know people. For me, without knowing very well the Vietnamese language, but using medicine and using health was a way for me to connect.
Yes.
And that has taken me to other parts of the world as well. But yes, it was one of the contributing factors to why I chose a career in medicine.
I see. That's really great. I mean, so what were some of your experiences teaching in An Giang, in the Mekong Delta?
Well, I was there for 3.5 years, and I taught maybe about 300, 400 students over that period. And I saw them grow so much. And it was funny because, I guess my story in Vietnam is a lot about tech. And I taught a lot of students how to use email and Facebook for the first time. And at that time, Vietnam was like 4 million people on the internet. And now it's like 42 million. And so it was really cool to see that change. People getting to know how to use PowerPoint, presenting in English. So one of the best things I ever did with several grades of students was I sent them out to the countryside to do interviews. They would bring their phones and do little videos and come back to the school and do presentations. And there's so many cool presentations. And one of them, they went out to present about this huge garbage dump where people were living in the garbage dump.
Wow.
And it was just so touching. Like these kids, they're 18, 19, and they really understood where Vietnam was headed and what problems that needed to be solved. That left a really good impression on me.
What about you? Chị Quỳnh, how about your first days in Vietnam?
My first days were rough, actually, because this is end of '97. I had this problem because I didn't speak Vietnamese at all, and people had certain assumptions, and they judged me often, and it was quite difficult, in fact.
I see. And how did it get easier for you, or did it get easier for you?
Vietnam, the culture, people were just much more open as the years went on. There's more access to information, more foreigners were coming in, more new businesses were open. I mean, that's what happened. Vietnam was developing.
Quỳng's passion for art awakened in her early teens when she visited museums in San Diego where her family had settled. She knew right away that she wanted to pursue art history. Mastering art criticism at the University of California, San Diego, Quỳnh then found a good job at the Museum of Contemporary Art there. In 1997, Quỳnh sold her car to buy an airline ticket, and she returned to Vietnam for the first time. She never knew that the decision would change her life forever.
Quỳnh sang Việt Nam đó là Quỳnh rất là khó khăn. Quỳnh đi dạy Anh văn để kiếm tiền đó mà. Thì lúc đó Quỳnh phải chuyển chỗ ở, thì chúng tôi đến chuyển chỗ ở thì Quỳnh chỉ cái quần áo mọi thứ chỉ được trong bịch ni lông thôi. Thì tôi với vợ Hoàng Tường với lại vợ của họa sĩ Nguyễn Thanh Bình đó, làm cái hùng tiền lại để mua những vật dụng cho Quỳnh, chẳng hạn như nồi chén bát, rồi Quỳnh mới mơ ước là Quỳnh sẽ muốn làm một cái gallery. Thì chính tôi là người chở Quỳnh đi kiếm địa điểm khắp nơi.
Despite various difficulties, including her mother's objections, Quỳnh resiliently built her gallery from the ground up. Gallery Quỳnh opened in 2003, and it's now recognized internationally as one of the best contemporary art galleries in Vietnam. Quỳnh also got married and nurtured a small family in Ho Chi Minh City. She now has a 4-year-old daughter named Nia An. For the last 18 years, Quỳng's mother has yet to visit Vietnam.
It's difficult for her mother in a way to understand just how life is here. I mean, obviously we tell her and we encourage her to come, but maybe there's just too many memories that she can't really get past that. We always hope that she'll change her mind and come back. Now that we have Nia, maybe that's more reason for her to come.
And Quỳng's determination is clear.
As long as I continue to feel like I'm contributing to the development of this nation, to my own personal growth as well, I enjoy the challenges that I face, and I want to continue to stay here.
So what happened during the years that you and your mother weren't talking?
I would say it's a year. It was like a year. But it felt like a long time. I mean, she's my mother. And when she actually told me that I'm no longer her daughter, of course, that's like, it's knife going and knife going. Yeah. That 1 year, I mean, we were still in touch. I mean, I would write at least. And a year later, no, I did go back a year later because my sister had cancer. So I went back there to take care of her and her son. And then that's when my mother and I kind of mended fences, and it's another tragedy bringing us together. Not that I would say coming back here is a tragedy, but to her it's, yeah.
So you talked about, you know, your ability to contribute in Vietnam and the potential, you know, the vast potential of things that you can add to it, that you can help. And so you also talked about how that influences your decision to stay. When did you decide finally to stay in Vietnam? Was it right at the beginning or only after a few years and then you see the development?
You know, I don't think I ever said I want to stay. I just take it like day to day, week to week, and it just feels right. I'm still learning a lot about this country through the eyes of the artists that I work with, who are these observers of, you know, the changing society. And so I'm learning every day too. So this is really my home, but I don't think there was anything that just made me say, okay, you know, I opened a physical gallery, this is really, I have to stay in Vietnam. It wasn't like that, actually. And to be honest, I'm doing a lot of traveling to promote my artists. So eventually, I would love to have another gallery outside Vietnam as well and just split my time. But Vietnam is still, I would say, it's always going to be my base and my home. And I have a daughter who was born here, and she speaks perfect Vietnamese. You know, she's 4 years old, and this is really, I'm probably going to grow old and die here, and I'm fine with that.
David Duong, Quỳnh Phạm, and Anh Minh Do are three among many young overseas Vietnamese across the world who have decided to come back to work and live in their cultural homeland. These people have returned hoping to gain a deeper insight into Vietnam and offer a fresh perspective on the country's development. David Duong has been working for 2 years now on the Partnership for Health Advancement in Vietnam, also known as the High VN Project, a collaboration between Harvard Medical School and Ho Chi Minh City's University of Medicine and Pharmacy. Here, he has facilitated exchange activities between the two universities. He is also participating in a project to write a new curriculum for medical schools in Vietnam.
David Duong đã đóng góp vào cùng với nhà trường cùng viết một cái dự án về đổi mới chương trình, và phải nói rằng David Duong là một cậu thanh niên hết sức là nhiệt huyết, hết sức nhiệt tâm và hết sức có năng lực, và đồng thời cũng hết sức là có cái tâm vì cái cộng đồng. Tôi không ngờ là bạn ấy trẻ mà bạn ấy lại làm việc, cái sức làm việc ấy phải nói là rất là mạnh.
As for Quỳnh Phạm, she has contributed to globalizing Vietnam's art scene. Many works from well-known international artists have hung from the walls of her art gallery as a result of her tireless efforts over the last 10 years.
She's contributed for the past decade, and she ought to continue to rely on her instinct and to put on really high-quality shows as a demonstration for what an international standard of art can be, and highlight Ho Chi Minh City in that process.
And she's also very serious about developing a worldwide profile to where Vietnamese contemporary art is also shown around the world.
Sao La is a project under Gallery Quỳnh, launched in May 2014 within the grounds of the Ho Chi Minh City Fine Arts Museum. Sao La's mission is to make contemporary art accessible to the general public through educational programs.
Chị Quỳnh chỉ đã quyết tâm để hỗ trợ cho các nghệ sĩ trẻ đương đại. Chị đã bỏ tiền túi của mình ra để cho mọi người có cơ hội được sáng tạo và làm việc một cách hết mức có thể. Mình rất là trân trọng việc đó.
I want to help the young artists. I want to give them a platform to exhibit, but also give them a platform, give them a space to exchange ideas, with their peers and also with the community. So it's also for the artists and it's also for our community.
Anh Minh Do is a blogger on technology. He is a pioneering Vietnamese blogger on Tech in Asia, a popular website dedicated to tech business startups. Through his enthusiasm and passion, he also connects people through Bar Camp Saigon, an annual forum where those who love technology can discuss everything related to technology.
Today I'm planning to talk about my blog and share my experience about how to reach out to a larger community. And another topic that I'm looking forward to sharing is Facebook marketing, which is something that I do business in.
Every year the topics are different, but usually it's around startup and technology and just things that the community is interested in. We don't organize any of the content. So we let the community, we let the audience choose what they want. So people will bring their topics in the morning, and then everybody can vote on which topics they want to hear.
From Bar Camp Saigon, many young people have eyed good job prospects and adventure in Vietnam.
How does it feel to nourish the next generation of artists right here in Vietnam?
It feels really great. I really hope they do something with that. I hope we've given them the tools and that they also have to continue that drive to move forward and stay engaged and not fall into this kind of trap of commercialism. I feel that some artists who have a lot of integrity and they see a long-term future.
What's the most important thing, I guess, you would say that connects you to Vietnam?
I guess I was in the last 2 or 3 years, I was in a very unique position in which I was like one of the only English writers about startup and technology in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And so then I could be the voice for the Vietnamese startup industry, which connected me from Vietnam to the world. The thing that I guess connects me is that relationship with all these people, all my new friends, all my friends in Vietnam. And that, it's cool because I think in the last 3 years, there's been a shift from, maybe it's the industry that I'm in, is that there's been a shift from this mentality of, we can't do that, to why isn't somebody doing this? And I can't wait for the moment when people are like, I'm going to do this. Because why isn't somebody doing this is not enough. Right?
Exactly. So one of the very, very big things about coming back to Vietnam is having good job prospects, right? And so how do you think that, what do you think Vietnam can offer in terms of job opportunities to the people who weren't born here, to Vietnamese people who weren't born here, who didn't grow up in this country?
I would say that this is an entrepreneurial country, and if you don't come in with an entrepreneurial mindset, then it's hard to find those cushy jobs in which you're going to be paid, whatever, a Western American salary, and then just fall into it and be comfortable.
Yes.
Unless you embrace it and see that, expect the challenges and things like that, I wouldn't, recommend it.
Yeah. So I think if you have some great ideas and you have a strong will as well, and you've got that passion, you can really make it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a challenging place to be, but it's great for entrepreneurs because, I was in Hong Kong for Art Basel, and I was just realizing it was like, wow, Hong Kong is so expensive, people can't just pick up and leave and go there. Vietnam's different. You can still live here relatively cheaply. So for young people with these great ideas and that ambition and that creative drive, they can do something. So in whichever sector.
Yeah, I think for me, in my sector of development and health, Vietnam in the 90s, in the 2000s had a lot of NGOs, and it was quite easy to come and get an internship and then stay and then work in that sector and then get a very cushy job, American salary, American package, and that's not the case anymore. For people who have a medicine or a public health background, coming here and having some experience in the States, whether as a physician or as a public health practitioner, and then coming here and carving a niche in their area and specialty, and actually even practicing medicine in Vietnam. There's a big need here. I mean, this country needs doctors, and it needs quality doctors, and it needs doctors who are willing to come here and practice really high quality medicine, but also train the doctors who are coming out of the universities here. And there's a big need for that. So yeah, the opportunities are here.
And David, so I have to ask you something about your linguistic experience or linguistic viewpoints. About the sang Mỹ và về Việt Nam.
How
does that come about?
So for my undergraduate thesis, it was a thesis on development, which then evolved into like the development of Vietnam and the land of dragons and fairies was the title of it. And there I explored a lot of words and how we've used them and how we've come to be. And one of those was về Việt Nam and sang Mỹ. And
that is to come back to Vietnam and to go to America.
Right. Like literal translation. Because the word về conveys the sense of going home. Sang conveys the sense of I'm going somewhere, but I will with the intention of returning to that original place. And at least for me and the other Vietnamese people that I've known, every single time they refer to going to Vietnam, even though their life is in the States, they always say về Việt Nam. So even it's something where the language brings us home, you know? And I found that really, I don't know, that's something that I find lacking in American culture, is this sense of community and this sense of belonging. And maybe it is because my ancestors are here, and I can point to villages that my great-grandfather came from, or my, you know, but that sense of belonging, that sense of purpose, and that sense of place is really special.
I lived in Vietnam for 8 years, and in that time, I've only been back about 6 times, each time less than a month. So in a way, I've been here full-time, non-stop. And that experience has left me a deep impression of what it is to be Vietnamese, what it is Vietnam, who I am. So if you're a Vietnamese American or Vietnamese abroad, you're first generation, third generation, second generation, I think you should come here and live and learn about what Vietnam is, learn how it's changing, what its potential is, and give back and learn to build along with Vietnam. You have to make Vietnamese friends in Vietnam. It's the only way to get to know the culture and to get to know who people are and understand Vietnam. And that's what's helped me really understand what it is like to live here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Vietnamese people. Make friends with people who've been here for a really long time, who've been here for 1, 2, 3, 4 years or more. I know people who've been here for 20 years even. And it's people like that who have staying power, who knows what it takes to stay in Vietnam for the long term. See the best parts of Vietnam, but also be realistic. I mean, there's a lot of things about Vietnam that aren't so great. Loud traffic, all these things that are part of the culture that we don't understand. But at the same time, there's a lot of things to love. Eat food on the street, ride a motorbike, get to know the people. There's a lot of things that you can see that are underneath the surface, under the skin, that you wouldn't see at first. Get involved. There's so many programs, organizations, and projects happening in Vietnam. And when you start to see what other people are doing, you start to see what the potentials are for Vietnam. So I think if you want to get to know what's happening, get involved.
Anh Minh, why did you decide to write the blog post of why Vietnamese Americans should come back to Vietnam?
It actually came out of a conversation with one of my friends, Sian, who's a British VKO.
Yes.
And we were just chatting about how much that we felt that we could do, and how we felt how a lot of people were missing out on what was happening in Vietnam. So I always love to see more foreigners coming here. I also wanted to encourage more people to come here and invest into Vietnam, you know, in terms of their time, energy, and money as well.
It's a global city, so that's what we want to communicate.
Yeah.
It's,
But it's also a time, like looking at education in Vietnam right now, and in Harvard, where I work in Vietnam, is helping to kind of reform the medical education system. And there's a lot of political will to develop people who are students into physicians that can think creatively, think innovatively, work in groups and stuff, or to political will to change and revamp the primary care system into a system that actually is very functional and that the community and the people and the public trust.
I guess April 30th, 1975 marked the end of the war. What is your hope for the future of Vietnam in terms of peace or in terms of development? What do you feel?
You know, it's a country in transition. It's going through growing pains as well, but it's going to get there. Like you say that political will, they're gonna get there. It's gonna be a gradual thing, though. I do see it, but it's happening, and it's exciting to see.
I hope that Vietnam doesn't erode its culture too much. And you know, when I looked at Num specifically, you know, it's like there's 30 people in the world that know Num, who can talk authoritatively about it. And inside of Num and all these manuscripts are a lot of what people understand about the culture. And like, so one of the researchers was telling me that they brought an old manuscript from the village, they translated it, they gave it back to the village, and the village was like, that's why we do that. Like, that's why we do that ritual. We had no idea why we did that. And that changed subsequently why they do, like, their other behaviors. And so when I think about that, I wonder, what are we kind of losing, and are we able to take the past and then, you know, kind of transform it into a new culture in a kind of, I don't know, authentic way or not?
Yeah, you made a comment earlier how you felt that the young generation actually are aware of the past, but they're moving forward. But sometimes I do get this feeling that the history is not, they are not terribly aware, actually, that they're really so much in the present and wanting to move forward that they're not studying the past. And that can be a little bit problematic, though.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think my biggest fear is that, you know, the commercialization of Vietnam and, you know, really going towards the future at, you know, full speed ahead without looking at where we've come from and preserving that culture. You know, like, that's one of the reasons why I love Hanoi so much, is because that old quarter is a living, breathing old quarter, and like you peer into little doorways that open up into these big courtyards that 20 families still live in, and that's Vietnam for me. And then you go to Hoi An and their old quarter, and it's beautiful, and they've restored it, and there's art galleries and cafes, but it's very sterile because it's just built for tourists. And how do we preserve, you know, the Hanoi old quarter, but also modernize other aspects at the same time?
So Anh Minh, I know you have a gift for us. You're going to play us a song called The Song of Hope, or bài ca hy vọng. Why did you learn to play that song?
So, you know, I improvise violin a lot, blues and rock and roll. So, you know, having a song about hope is nice, and hope for the future. So, yeah, me and my friend Hugh are going to play, and we're going to have our own interpretation of the song. So,
we're so excited to hear it.
people are very hopeful about the future. They're very strong, and there's a sense of happiness that still resonates in the country.
Being in Vietnam taught me what the word tình cảm meant, and to live not so individualistically as we live in America, but to live because of other people, and to live connected to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family, to your homeland.
Everything about this country felt right for me at the time. As long as I continue to feel like I'm contributing to the development of this nation, to my own personal growth as well, I enjoy the challenges that I face, and I want to continue to stay here.
The Song of Hope's melodies is the signal to Talk Vietnam's ending this time. Talk Vietnam is a show that where we hope to inspire everybody to have a deeper connection with Vietnam through the stories of individuals we feature on our show. And through the 3 stories today, we hope that you feel a deeper connection with Vietnam. And if you're still pondering about whether to return to this country, we hope that we've managed to plant a little seed in your mind this time for you to come back and experience Vietnam for what it is today as compared to what it was in the past. That's it for Talk Vietnam this time. I'll see you again.